Suffixes, that's the new topic or discussion today. Denominal noun, abstract noun bases become largely non-count abstract or aggregate nouns of status or activity by means of the following suffixes. So we are going to discuss noun suffixes. The first suffix is age or measure of, the collocation of as in the baggage, frontage, mileage. Dum, the next suffix as in the official dum. This suffix again not very productive, tend to convey pejorative overtone, though not perhaps in stardom and not in the old established kingdom, which in contrast to kingship is concrete and countable. Thus the next suffix, which means the condition or behavior associated with, as in drudgery, slavery, devilry, also deviltry, often used in ironic nuance formation, nitwitry, takeover, biddery, dare, trippery, etc. There is some use of adjective basis, bravery, location of, that could be the meaning of this suffix, as in nursery, rookery, refinery, bakery, nunnery. These are used as concrete nouns, aggregate nouns, and verb bases can be involved. There are occasional nouns formations, eatery, canteen. Non-count concrete aggregate nouns are rather freely formed, such as machinery, rocketry, gadgetry. Next suffix is full. The contrast, this means the amount contained in, as in spoonful, glassful, handful. Such freely formed nouns approach concreteness in meaning and are count. Hood, as in boyhood, brotherhood, widowhood, only mildly productive, though items like sister or sentencehood can achieve limited currency. The base is occasionally an adjective, as in falsehood, which is both count and non-count. Next suffix ing. Non-count concrete aggregates are fairly freely formed, such as tubing, paneling, matting, carpeting, all with reference to the material of which the base is made. Next, activity connected with, as in cricketing, farming, blackberrying. Such noun, abstract and non-count, are fairly freely made. Philosophy and art usually have a corresponding item in ist to denote adherents or practitioners. SM or ISM, that means the doctrine of or practice of, as Calvinism, idealism, impressionism, fitatism. Absenteeism, racism, the item concerning religion and politics. Then ocracy, that is government by, as in democracy, aristocracy, meritocracy. They can be count and have corresponding personal noun, democrat. They might be seen as combining form compound. Next, ship, as in friendship, membership, dictatorship, professionalship or professorship. Most items with the limited productive suffix can also be count, and some have an adjective base, as in hardship. Lectureship is less common than the irregular lectureship. Worry, compare the ultimate cognate area largely in commercial coinage such as cafeteria, washateria, at Uram as in auditorium, but also commercial use in lubritorium and tori as in dormitory. The suffix er can also affect abstract noun as in the sense of instance, process of of we, verb. The two forms are arranging a merger. So er can be used as a suffix in such a case. Next category, denominal nouns are concrete. In contrast with those in the last section, the following noun suffixes combine with noun bases to yield concrete and individualizing item over a rather wide semantic range. Only er is freely productive. Note that some item rarely per suffix become the stress syllable in the derived word er orette invariably. That is skilled in, engaged in, as in pamphleteer, profiteer, racketeer, often pejorative, especially where this is suggested by the base, but not in mountaineer, auctioneer, and engineer. Er suffix, that means having as dominant characteristics or denizen of, as in teenager, northwesterner, that's of wind, three-wheeler, villager, lunner. In tone, this resembles the familiarity markets in the last section in cooker, roaster, boiler, cooking apple, boiling fowl, etc. The base seems to be a verb but of ing type, as in waitress, actress, lioness, manageress, stewardess, hostess. The last four sometimes have stress on the suffix. Adds feminine marking to animate nouns, sometimes the vowel of the preceding unstressed essential suffix is elided. Wait, for example, becomes waiter or waitress at table. ETTE, that means compact, fairly productive, as in kitchenette, dinerette. Next meaning could be imitation, as in flannelette, leatherette, formerly common in commercial coinage. A feminine marker, as in suffragette, usherette. Next, let means small as or unimportant, as in booklet, leaflet, piglet, starlet. Next suffix is ling, means minor or offspring of something or somebody, as in penciling, duckling. Other bases besides noun are involved, as in hireling, underling. Where the referent is human, the formation is somewhat contemptuous. Next suffix, stir, that means involved in, as in trickster, gangster, gamster, usually pejorative, but not in roadster, that means the style of a vehicle. Note, changing attitude to women and to sex discrimination have much reduced the use of ESS or ETT and compounds in women. Girl surviving usage would refer to the designation of an activity, that is hostess, stewardess, rather than to sex of the person performing it. Thus, the same women might say, I'm an actress and I'm a bad actor. So both actress and actor are used commonly for the women. Since there are roles that must be filled by women, actress is tolerated where authoress and poetess have no such justification and are now in consequence rarely used. For other but related social reason, Jewish or juves, and regresses are little used. Note that in the master mistresses of the house, different roles are involved. Teachers referred to as form master, form mistress, chiefly British, are however in the same role. The use of master for role, irrespective of sex, is to be found in she's giving master classes or mistress classes in piano. She's now a master in the art of dodging work. She has now mastered the art of itching, and also she now has mastery of the whole matter. B. Formation like policeman, chairperson are treated as compound with let and ling of familiarity marker. The following suffixes combine with verb bases to produce concrete count noun, largely of personal reference. For example, er is particularly productive. A and T are chiefly formal, agential, as in inhabitant, constant, or contestant, informant. It often corresponds to verb in ate, participant, lubricant, or lubricate, as the last example show. Reference may be to non-personal. One who is object of the verb, as in appointee, payee. In some cases, as with and, it may replace the verb ending ata, nominee. There are examples: lubricant without verb base or object, meaning absentee, refugee. Stressing is exceptional in employee or employer. Forms a genteel noun on nominalization, as in singer, one who sings, especially professionally, writer, driver, employer, etc. Use informally also with phrasal verb washer up, chucker out, and with object verb compound, and some comparable compounds: window cleaner, high flyer. Essential may also be non-personal: silencer, computer, thriller. With new classical bases, the suffix is often spelled or accelerator, incubator, supervisor, survivor, actor. So too in cases where there is no free base: author, doctor, etc. The following suffixes combine with verb bases to produce largely abstract noun nominalization of the action expressed by the base. Example: age, that means action of, instance of. Abstract and usually non-count, as in breakage, coverage, drainage, leverage, shrinkage, wastage. Al, that means the action or result of, chiefly count, as in refusal, revival, dismissal, upheaval. Then ation, ation, that means the process or state of, normally used as non-count, as in exploration, starvation, ratification, victimization. The product of, that could be the meaning of ation, or the institution produced by. The aggregate count noun, as in the foundation, organization. The suffix freely combined with verb bases and in IZE or IFE or ATE with stress shift where necessary. That is, examples are justify, educate. Pronunciation and stress suggest that analogous endings already present in adopted nouns, often paired with adopted verb. Decide, decision are analyzed as related even though they are not productive. Ing or ing and the verbal noun, concrete count nouns referring to what results from the action of the base, as in building, opening, filling, in tooth, for example. Some are obligatory plural, earning, saving, shaving. Occasionally, the formations are non-count, suffering, clothing. The abstract count, item, christening, wedding, refer rather to the occasion of the base verb's activity. Then ment or mant, the result of, as in the arrangement, that's a count noun, amazement, puzzlement, embodiment. In some cases, the formation is concrete, for example, equipment, non-count. And management can be both abstract, non-count, and concrete, aggregate count. The glosses cannot capture the spectral or aspectual essence of the nominalization in action, meant, etc., in contrast to those in ing verbal noun. Note the gradients presented in the section. The word formation described in this section are relatively remote from conduct of the action itself, and even at their most verbal refer rather to the action as a whole, even including its completion. Compare is exploring of the mountain is taking a long time. Another example is exploration of the mountain took or will take 3 weeks. Now the next category is de-ejectival noun. There are two very common suffixes by means of which abstract and normally non-count nouns are formed from ejective bases, and they're called de-ejectival noun. Examples of suffixes are ity as in ity, especially associated with ejective of non-classical French origin, with stress shift wherever necessary to place the stress on the last syllable before the suffix, as in elastic or elasticity, rapid to rapidity. Further example, sanity, falsity, diversity, banality. The vowel or the vowels of the stress syllable is often changed from long to short. For example, verbose, or from verbose to verbosity. The suffix is freely productive, especially with adjective in able, that is respectability, or al as an actuality, and ar regularity. But there are examples in which the affixes which already present when the words was adopted, for example, eternity, humility, these lack a direct ejective base in English. Next suffix ness or ness, freely added to any type of adjective, as in meanness, happiness, usefulness, kindness, selfishness, unexpectedness, stoutness, accurateness, falseness, item including phrase in common, pre-modifying or predicative use can equally take the suffix up to dateness. Suffix at all, both suffixes occur also in frozen item in which no base is identifiable, levity, business. These two suffixes resemble in and un both in their predominant association with foreign and native bases respectively, and in the tendency for ity and in to be especially associated with the greater lexicalization. Ness and un with direct reference to the ejective bases in ad hoc formation. Compare pompousness and pomposity. It is even possible to imagine an occasion when the ad hoc unflexibleness would be used rather than the institutionalized inflexibility. Musicality will tend to refer to technical properties in a piece of music as bass tending to be non-gradable. Musicalness to the degree of which gradable quality musical obtain. Formation in ness also exists beside other de-ejectival formation: normalness, normality, normalcy, especially American, unjustness, injustice, accurateness, accuracy, in-depthness, ineptitude, infiniteness, infinitude, infinity. The need for a ness formation is clearer where the lexicalized item has developed a meaning relatively remote from the ordinary meaning of the adjective basis. For example, sensible, sensibility, sensibleness. In any event, the ness items are less lexicalized and can be conveniently used to refer directly to the adjective. His very there is nothing particular odd about him. He is perfectly normal. And in fact, it's normalness that makes him seem boring are some of the examples. Non-ejective suffixes. A number of suffixes yield items that can be used both as nouns and as normally non-gradable ejective. The formation basically refers to human beings chiefly as members of a group and may be both denominal and de-ejectival on nationality name, for example, as ES or ESE, American usually ESE, that is member of a certain nationality or race, as in Chinese, Portuguese, Japanese. Second, in the language of or the style of, as in Chinese, Cunties, Johnnies, Jollies, both nouns and adjective except those relating to styles such as officiallys, which are nouns only and are pejorative. Then the next suffix an or un, that means adhered to, as in Darwinian, Republican, relating to, that's the meaning as Shakespearean, Elizabethan, Chomskyan. Then suburban adjectives only, and the next one, the meaning could be citizen of, as in Parisian or Indonesian or Chicagoan or Glaswegian or Glasgow. The next meaning could be in the language of Indonesian, Russian, where the base ends in a, the stress falls on the last syllable before the suffix. Most items can be used both as nouns and adjective, not gradable in. The next item could be variably. The next meaning could be variably in other instances. The places is awfully urban. She is an awfully urban gorilla. Now, the next suffix is ist or ist, skilled in or practicing, as in violence, stylish, racialist, Maoist, Calvinist, socialist, loyalist. Items relating to the adherence as distinct from skill are normally paired with the abstract noun, as in ism or ISM, and maybe adjectives or noun, though adjectival ending ik may be added to the last section. A final vowel in the base is often omitted. Silo, cellist. The skill item may have verb bases as with typists and are nouns only. Next suffix ite, that's it, that means adherent to or member of, or as a set, as in Bethlehemite, Shemnite, Chomskyite, Socialite. These are primarily nouns but may be adjective. He is Luddite. His views are rather Luddite. The bases are chiefly personal name of those who have led movements. Next meaning of ite could be denizen of, as in Brooknite, Hampsteadite. These are nouns only. Formation of both types tend to be used disparagingly unless long established Israelite or where a movement excites little hostility. For example, Bethlehemite, Some bases can take ist, ian, ite equally. The first would suggest greatest commitment to the view or theory concerned. He is an out and out Darwinist. It is use of ideas rather than of their proponent. The second would be more neutral and would lend itself in consequence to use more readily as a gradable adjective. Isn't the approach rather Darwinian, but can also refer to the work of Darwin himself as a Darwinist. Darwinite cannot. The third tends to be disparaging and would be used chiefly by those who are not in themselves adherent. He is a Darwinite rather than are you a Darwinite or I am a Darwinite. Affection is implied. Lastly, with IAN should be compared the more restricted use of Aryan to form personal noun and adjective in authoritarian, vegetarian, octogenarian. Now, ejective suffixes or denominal suffixes. A wide range of suffixes exists having the function or forming adjectives, especially from noun. We begin with those that retain a native flavor. For example, ed or id, having or forms largely non-gradable adjective from nouns and especially from noun phrases: wooded, pointed, walled, simple-minded, blue-eyed, blonde-haired, fuller-flavored, odd-shaped, giant-sized are some of the examples. These formations are to be distinguished from compound like much trouble, self-style, where the second part is a verb. In some cases, for example, three-legged, the suffix is syllabic. Id, under phonological condition, where inflectional ed or id would not be, several formation are gradable: aged, crooked, ragged, etc. Full or ful, usually full, contrasts with full, that means full of, or providing, combined chiefly with abstract noun to form gradable adjective as in useful, delightful, pitiful, successful, helpful. Sometimes the base is verb, for example, forgetful. Suffix ish, freely used with largely concrete nouns, somewhat like as in childish, monkish, foolish, roguish, snobbish, and with adjective basis the meaning is somewhat as in coldish, brownish, with people's age, that is approximately as in 60ish. Also, she will arrive about 10ish, with names of race, people, and languages. Ish or ish forms non-gradable adjective, and with respect to language, noun, for example, Swedish, Cornish, Turkish. IAN, third and fourth, etc. Then prefix less, less, without, that's the meaning, combined with both abstract and concrete noun formation, with the later being usually non-gradable: careless, restless, colorless, harmless, childless, homeless. These are the examples. The suffixes often used as an antonym of full, useful, useless, careless, careful. But separate lexicalization makes some pairs non-atomic: pitiful, pitiless, etc. Suffixes like, freely used with largely concrete noun as in childlike, statesmanlike, monkey-like. Such formation might be regarded as compound, and the relationship between base and suffix is very direct. Like means like, or next is ly or ly. with largely concrete noun, that is having the quality of, as in womanly, soldierly, motherly, brotherly, friendly, cowardly, deathly. There's also some use of adjective bases, deadly, with commonly no relation to a base is semantically recognized with nouns that are units of time, every, as a daily, weekly, etc. Why? Somewhat like characterized by, that's the meaning, freely used with largely concrete noun to form gradable adjective, often colloquial tone, as in sandy, meaty, creamy, hairy, wealthy, filthy, comfy. The bases may also be verbs, as in gushy, runny, that's about nose. In sandy hair, we have the somewhat like sand. In sandy beach, the characterized by sand. Then the next one is E, as in is pronounced Among other denominal adjective suffix, we may mention some constituting, as in burdensome, frolicsome, bothersome. Next, worthy, that is fit for, as in praiseworthy, prizeworthy, seaworthy. B, where like and ish occur with the same base, the later is relatively pejorative and more remote from literal comparison. In manly, manlike, mannish, the first refers to physical or hero is qualities in a male. The second is a simile usually applied to non-human. The third refers to unwelcome masculine attributes usually in women. Suffixes continue. The denominal adjective suffixes in our second group are of foreign origin, and although some of them are among the commonest suffixes in use, they retain something of their foreign origin in relative formality and being largely used with bases and having also been adopted. Correspondence both with bases and with further derivation often reflect pattern of latent morphology. All the suffixes have the meaning roughly paraphrasable as having the properties of, or more generally having relation to. That is the base. The adjective formed are usually gradable. AL or L and IAL, especially after bases, and ICAL or ACL, especially replacing finally Y bases, as in accidental, dialectical, editorial, professional, psychological, philosophical, etc. It will be seen that stress is affected, usually coming on the last syllable before the suffix. Cultural, cynical, musical are among the exception. Then ESQ, or sk, apart from its use in words of which it already formed a part when adopted, burlesque, arabesque, now chiefly used with names prominently associated with artistic individuality, romance, Kafka's, Daniel's quest, and ick, with the same stress rule as for AL, for example, tomic, heroic, oceanic, with same basis, and im, the suffixes attic, problematic, phonematic, beside, phonemic. The suffixes also used for non-gradable ethnic adjective and for the names of the corresponding languages, Celtic, Arabic, contrast with Arabian. OUS also IS, especially when replacing IUN, IT, or IT in bases so ending as in desirous, virtuous, grievous, ambitious, vivacious. The stress usually placed on the last syllable before the suffix. Several formations are slightly irregular, for example, courteous, erroneous, that the courtesy or error, from courtesy or error. Next, the noun suffix ity or it can be attached to L or ik and ous, but its addition entails certain changes. The suffix al receives the stress pronunciation I in place of ul. Neutral neutrality ik changes its pronunciation from ik to is. Electric electricity ous changes its spelling to os and receives the stress pronunciation thus instead of us. Curious curiosity. Next, nouns in ite or it do not accept ejective suffixes except ish, but those in ist or ist accept ik and icl or ikl. Indeed, with an ist or ist item, as in non-gradable adjective, we have an interesting series in rare cases. He is an atheist or egotist. His views are solidly atheist, egotist. His views are rather atheistic, egotistic. His views are slightly atheistical or egotistical are some of the examples. The next suffix, a diminishing degree of, for example, ism or ism is implied illistic, istical also tend to be disparaging. For example, causatical in some adjective alternates with ikal or icl with difference of meaning. Classical performance, great, memorable classical languages, a comic masterpiece of comedy, an economic miracle, Latin and Greek, his comical behavior funny. In the economy, the car is economical to run, money saving, an electric fault, an electric light powered by electricity, etc. A historical building of electricity, historical, research pertaining to history with a history, is poetic behavior, the tactful, unusual, political parties concerned with politics. There are several less common neoclassical affixes, among which ARY or ATE and ORY are particularly notable, as in revolutionary, affectionate, obligatory, adjective in ORY alternate with or without stress shift, with noun in ition or TION, obligatory, obligation, satisfactory, satisfaction. Both ARI and OR are reduced in British to AN or N. In American, they are often given a secondary stress and are distinguished in production as in ere and ore or aure. Two common suffixes are used to form deverbal suffixes or adjective. For example, and they are largely gradable free verbs, and they are in polar contrast in respect of verbal voice. IVE is fundamentally related to the active of the kind that can. Verb able is fundamentally related to the passive of the kind that can be a verb ed. Thus, idea attracts me. The idea is attractive. The text can be translated. The text is untranslatable. Supportive can support. Supportable can be supported, etc. Next suffix is able, able, fairly freely combined with transitive verb to produce gradable adjective of the kind that is subject to being verb ed, as in debatable, washable, drinkable, manageable. In many adopted words, the suffix was already present, sometimes in the variant form. For example, ible or ible and uble, uble, which are non-productive in English, but where the passive relation can still be found, inevitable cannot be avoided, visible can be seen, soluble can be dissolved, As with passive verb phrases, the agent can sometimes be expressed with by phrase, though chiefly a general agent rather than a specific one. The comet was observable by anyone owning a powerful telescope, but observable by John. These are some of the examples of deverbal suffixes. We continue with visible. The instrument is indicated with to. The naked eye cannot see this. This is not visible to the naked eye. Passive adjective in able are chiefly used in negative clues or with the negative by fixation. His story is not refutable, irrefutable, is unrefutable. Instead of his story is refutable. We normally use his story can be refuted. In addition, however, able yields no passive meaning but rather as a sense paraphrasable as apt to plus verb changeable whether perishable suitable etc. Basis may also be noun, sometimes implying mortalized passive sense, marriageable, saleable, sometimes not peaceable, fashionable, seasonable, etc. IVE, that's if, as in attractive, effective, possessive. In many cases, the relation between the verb and adjective reflects romance, morphology, produce, productive, explode, explosive, expand, expansive, presume, presumptive, etc. In others, on the pattern of decorate, decorative. In longer affixes, ATIV is used talkative, affirmative, causative. Occasionally, the base is a noun, secretive, and sometimes the relation to the base is obscured, as in sensitive, emotive. The stress pattern of the base is not usually affected by the addition of IV or if. Suffixes continues prefixal negative with adjective in both IV and able or able treats the whole of what follows as the base. Thus, untranslatable has the structure untranslatable and does not mean possible not to translate but not possible to translate. Contrast privative and I found the equipment readily unpackable to be understood as easy to unpack but certainly not uneasily breakable. Prepositional and phrasal verb usually form able adjective with omission of the particle. We can rely on John is reliable, unspeakable. This has the effect of making wash capable of two interpretation. The shirt is washable. That means it can safely be washed. This ink is washable, can be washed out away, though in fact it may indicate a guarantee that water can be applied without the writing being washed out, but also phrasal item informal, ungettable, ungettable, unlivable, or that means with agreeable. There are three uses: companionable, willing to, or agree to, can be agreed to. In this last sense, it's predictably only I have agreeable friend. Eventually, my friends were agreeable. We continue with some of the last known suffixes. We must find a formulation that is agreeable to everyone. Is the example. Sometimes a passive able adjective can be predicted only of an inanimate where no such reaction or restriction obtains in the corresponding transitive clause. The man is forgivable, pardonable, thus not possible in active form. We can forgive or pardon the man or the error is possible only in the active form, not in the passive. Although the modality of most passive able adjective is usually potential, can be with Some it is intentional or obligation will be must be. The deposit is refundable, for example, that is will. The money is payable on delivery, that is must. The money is payable by check, that's a possibility. So given that able adjective may be active, changeable as well as passive, some item can be either the weather is variable, that is must be active. The rate is variable, may be passive. Some adjectives and able have front shifted stress, admirable, preferable. Sin like ly, able can be fairly freely used in nuance formation. An indication of spelling convention may be given. Basis in finally y or we have this replaceable by I as in deniable, but in final e is usually retained, especially where misleading pronunciation might otherwise be suggested. Thus, anticiable or anticiable, expungible or expungible. Thank you. Now we have the next item, adverb suffixes. Ly can be very generally added to an adjective in a grammatical environment requiring an adverb gradable if the adjective concerned is gradable, so that it could almost be regarded as an inflection. For example, the meaning can often be paraphrased as in a manner, as in calm or calmly, or to a degree as in she looks extremely well, or in a respect as in personally he would be suitable. The range of meanings is related to the range of adverbial function, with adjective in ICAL is usually added before the suffix scenic or scenically. The relation of adjective ic and ICL no al is inserted in publicly, but in any case the insertion is inaudible since there is illusion. Scenically is pronounced cynically. The restriction on the use of ALY may be summarized as follows. There are some adjectives with no separate adverbial form, for example, fast and hard. LY is not added to adjectives ending in LY. Cowardly, for example, is not acceptable, though occasionally one finds sillily friendly. More usually, prepositional phrases or synonyms are used amicably. There is avoidance of ly also with adjective ending in e as with hostile, and it's usual to substitute a prepositional phrase such as with hostility. Exception include with wholly, solely. Lee is not added to some mischievous adjective, for example, or miscellaneous adjective, for example, difficult, but of note. A, on the other hand, especially informally, ly can be used with phrases as in she spoke quite matter of factly on the subject. Then words or WARDs form non-gradable directional adverb where the base may be a noun as in earthward, a prepositional adverb as in onward, or a directional adverb as in northward. Non-formation like theater words or Chicago words are common if jocular. The form without are usual in printed American. Those with S are usual in British and are common in spoken American. This type of adverb lends itself to pre-modification in its form without S. Homeward journeys are the happiest. So thank you. This is the end of the discussion on suffixes.